Frank Castle isn't a hero. He's what happens when everything else fails. When the system breaks, when justice falls short, and when no one else is willing to finish it, that's when he shows up. But he wasn't always that. Frank was a soldier, a husband, and a father, until one moment took everything from him. And that night, Frank Castle died, and something else was born. The Punisher. This is everything you need to know before The Punisher One Last Kill, a Marvel special presentation. Frank Castle first shows up in Daredevil Season 2, and he didn't come to Hell's Kitchen to be a hero. He came to end things. One by one, entire criminal organizations are wiped out. Not arrested or broken up, but eliminated. To Frank, there are no second chances, no redemption arcs, just an end. And that's what brings him into conflict with Matt Murdock. Because where Matt believes in saving people, Frank believes some people don't get saved. They get stopped, permanently. On a rooftop, Frank forces that belief into reality by giving Matt a choice. Kill him, kill a criminal, or do nothing. Matt refuses, and Frank pulls the trigger anyway, proving what he's believed all along. Mercy doesn't save people, it gets them killed. As the truth begins to surface, Frank learns his family's death wasn't random. They were caught in something bigger, a conspiracy buried beneath everything. He's eventually captured and put on trial, but instead of defending himself, Frank owns everything he's done. He knows exactly what he is, and he makes it clear he would do it again. Prison doesn't stop him. It sharpens him, and it brings him face to face with Wilson Fisk. Fisk helps Frank escape because it serves them both. But before they go their separate ways, Frank makes one thing clear. If they ever cross paths again, he'll kill him. Manipulated and thrown into chaos, Frank fights his way through everything in front of him until the truth finally comes into focus. The man behind it all, the blacksmith, a former commanding officer and the one responsible for everything. And when Frank finally finds him, he ends it. No hesitation, no doubt. By the time it's over, Frank has done what he set out to do. He's found and killed the man he believed was responsible for his family's deaths. And with that, there's nothing left tying him to the man he used to be. No questions, no uncertainty, and no reason left to stop. This is where Frank Castle stops looking for justice and becomes something permanent. The Punisher. Frank's story picks back up in The Punisher Season 1. He tries to disappear, but the past doesn't stay buried, especially when someone has been watching him. What they show him changes everything. Hidden footage reveals a mission in Afghanistan where Frank and his unit were carrying out orders that didn't make sense. It wasn't a war, it was a cover-up. That's when he meets Micro, a man who already knows the truth. Together they start pulling at the thread, and it leads to something much bigger than either of them expected. Cerberus, a black ops program operating completely outside the law, with no oversight and no accountability. Frank wasn't just fighting enemies, he was being used to erase them. And the deeper they go, the clearer it becomes that this isn't about one mission or one mistake. It's a system. At the center of it all is someone Frank trusted, his squad mate and friend Billy Russo. Billy knew what was happening and let it happen anyway. That betrayal cuts deeper than anything else, because this time, it wasn't the system that failed Frank, it was someone he chose to trust. So Frank doesn't just take revenge, he tears the entire operation down piece by piece until it leads him to the man behind it all, CIA official William Rawlins. And when it's over, Frank gets his revenge. Rawlins is dead, Russo is left alive, beaten to the edge of death, physically and mentally scarred, and for the first time, the truth about everything is finally out. This wasn't just revenge anymore, it was a war against the system that created him. Frank's story continues in The Punisher Season 2, where for the first time, he tries to walk away. He's been off the grid, drifting from place to place under a new identity. But that ends when he crosses paths with a girl named Amy, a kid on the run after stealing a set of photos tied to something much bigger than she understands. When armed men come looking for her, Frank steps in, and just like that, he's pulled back into the war. Because Amy isn't just being hunted, she's being tracked by a man named John Pilgrim, a ruthless enforcer working for a powerful family, the Schultzes, who will do anything to keep those photos from getting out. And wherever Pilgrim goes, he doesn't stop. As Frank tries to keep Amy alive, the truth starts to come into focus. The photos are leverage, tied to the Schultz family's control over their son, a US senator they're manipulating from the shadows. But that's only one side of the war, because back in New York, Billy Russo is still alive. Broken after his last fight with Frank, physically and mentally, now claiming he doesn't remember what he's done. But as pieces of his memory start to return, so does the violence. Russo, now Jigsaw, begins building something new, pulling in other broken soldiers, forming a crew, turning chaos into purpose. And when Frank finally comes face to face with him again, he hesitates, because this isn't the same man. Not completely. And for the first time, Frank questions it. Can he kill someone who doesn't remember their crimes? Or does that line even matter anymore? As everything begins to collide, Pilgrim closing in, Russo spiraling, and Amy caught in the middle, the war reaches its breaking point. Frank takes Pilgrim on in a brutal fight, and wins. But instead of killing him, he lets him go. Because for the first time, Frank sees something of himself in someone else. A man who became what the world forced him to be. At the same time, Russo's story reaches its end. Broken, dying, still searching for something to hold on to. But when Frank finds him, there's no hesitation. No more questions, Frank ends it. And when it's over, the people behind it all are gone. The war is finished, but something has changed. Because this time, Frank wasn't just fighting to punish, he was fighting to protect. And it forced him to confront the truth he's been avoiding. Not whether the world needs the Punisher, but whether there's anything left of Frank Castle at all. For a while, Frank stays gone, but the world doesn't. Because in Daredevil Born Again Season 1, the symbol he created starts to spread. Corrupt cops and task forces created under the authority of New York's new mayor, Wilson Fisk, begin using the Punisher's name, wearing the skull without understanding what it means. And this time, it's Matt Murdock who seeks Frank out. Matt tells him he needs to deal with the cops using the Punisher's symbol. Frank doesn't bite. Not his problem, but that's not really why Matt is there. Because for the first time, Matt is starting to question his own line. The one he's never crossed. The one where he doesn't kill. And when he looks to Frank for an answer, Frank doesn't give him permission. He gives him truth. Your best friend was killed, and the man who killed him is still out there breathing. So maybe your way doesn't work. And that's what pulls Frank back in. When they move forward, nothing between them has really changed. Matt still believes in the system, and Frank doesn't. Because this time, the system isn't just broken, it's being used. Controlled, weaponized from the inside to eliminate threats and tighten its grip on the city. As New York falls deeper under that control, Frank steps back into the war. Not for revenge, not for answers, but because someone has to. He begins targeting those abusing his name, tearing through the people hiding behind the symbol, forcing them to face what it actually means. But this time, the system pushes back. Frank takes on the anti-vigilante task force head on. He's overwhelmed, captured, and locked away. Contained, but Frank Castle doesn't stay contained. Before the final moments, he knocks out a guard, takes the key, and escapes. And that's where we last see Frank. At this point in time, he's only been briefly mentioned and has not appeared in Daredevil Born Again Season 2. But at the time of making this video, not all of the episodes have been released yet. Otherwise, his story will continue in The Punisher One Last Kill, a Marvel special presentation set to release May 12th. The official synopsis from Marvel reads, as Frank Castle searches for meaning beyond revenge, an unexpected force pulls him back into the fight. And right now, Frank is also set to appear in the summer blockbuster Spider-Man Brand New Day, as seen in the trailer, releasing July 31st. It's believed that The Punisher One Last Kill will take place prior in the timeline and lead into it. Either way, you should be fully caught up on Frank's story now, and we're excited to see where it goes next. Let us know in the comments what you're most excited for, and subscribe if you want more Marvel recaps. And remember, we're here to watch the realities and guide you through the timelines.